At a recent trip to Ye Olde Hobby Store, I wanted to get another PS4 game that I felt I could review. That game happens to be today's adventure in electronic entertainment, a simple off-road racing game called Gravel. The back of the box had me intrigued. The definitive off-road playground. Perform amazing stunts in the wildest places on Earth. Variety of off-road disciplines. Dangerously fun. Gravel channel. Okay, maybe that didn't really hook me, but for the $10 they were asking for, I couldn't help but pick it up. Again, Gravel is an off-road racing game. If you've ever played dirt, you know the deal. You choose a car on a track and aim to finish in first place. This is done by outmaneuvering, slamming into, and taking minor shortcuts. I mean, it's a racing game. If you don't know how racing works, you may want to look into other videos and learn the basics, as I'm not going to go into that. But what I will talk about is the racing mechanics. Being that most of the tracks are dirt or mud instead of asphalt, you'll be sliding around a bit, so utilizing the brakes in order to do some power sliding would be very beneficial. There are 4 different race types, or disciplines, as the game calls them, with different variations of each one available in-game. These are cross-country, wild rush, speed cross, and stadium circuits. Cross-country, in my opinion, were the best ones, and are simple sprint races in which you have to go through gates to be able to keep progressing through the race. If you miss one, you'll be warped back to the gate 3 seconds later, allowing you to cross it and continue. You also don't need to actually go in between the poles. They can be run over by your vehicle and it will still count as you are going through the checkpoint. These races also tend to be the longest races of the group, with massive straightaways, loose turns, and uneven ground, so they happen to be the most fun to race on, in my opinion. The Wild Rush gameplay? Well, to me, I'm not entirely sure, but these felt like a combination of all the different types of disciplines. But it's either going to be a time attack option or special mode, where you have to break signs that flash either a red or green signal. Or maybe those are the speed cross events. I guess I'll just talk about all the options here, I suppose. You want to hit the green ones, because hitting the red one will drastically slow down your car, like an EMP blast hit the engine or something. If you hit a green one, you just keep going like nothing even happened. You need to make sure that the hit is a clean one, because if you hit both a green and a red target, you will slow down as if the green one didn't mean anything. It's still better to hit a red target than miss a sign group entirely though, because if you don't hit any, you will again be teleported back to a short distance before the signs to try again. These are fairly difficult to achieve a good place on, because no matter how fast you're going, the AI opponents always seem to have a better time than you. There are also eliminator events, where you have about 20 to 40 seconds to make sure that you're not in last place. If you are when the timer hits 0, the race is over for you. I already mentioned the time attack where you have to have the fastest lap time. There's also the stadium events, which from what I can tell are just basic lap runs in a stadium-like arena. Again, some of these event types cross into other disciplines, and it's about 98.5% possible that I'm totally messing up the event discipline descriptions, but at least now you know what kind of racing events you'll do. The game takes place on something called the Gravel Channel, in which you're competing in something called the Off-Road Masters. Each chapter of the game is called an episode on this channel, and your goal is to win races to earn stars. Each race gives you 3 objectives, and you'll need to win each race in order to get the full 3 stars in each event. The game starts you off fairly easily, with you only needing to get on the top 3 in order to earn 3 stars, but later on, you'll need to earn first. As long as you complete each race, you get at least 1 star, so at least there's that if you're struggling on certain races. Of course, you're able to tune some of the settings on your car to help give you an advantage. I didn't mess with much other than the gear ratio to give me a faster acceleration, as I'm not a car junkie, and even with the little blurb at the bottom of the screen, I still don't know what that crap means. You can also save your settings if you think you found the perfect mix. As for the cars, I think there are 30 total, with several liveries per car. I don't even know if I'm saying that word right. Liveries? Liveries? I'm going with liveries, you can correct me if you want. There's a few different classes too, so it's hard to be able to find one car you like and stick with it since the choices are always changing, depending on what episode and event you chose. There are also, of course, plenty of DLC to give you more vehicles and even 4 more episodes. In fact, after episode 1, the next 4 episodes are all shown as DLC. I don't like this practice, as it practically shoves the DLC down your throat. And I still haven't bought it. So is it really effective? I don't think so. As for the driving itself, well, it's nothing groundbreaking. In fact, I'd say it's fairly standard racing. It's not bad, mind you, just nothing outstanding. Amazing stunts that are claimed on the box are a lie, as the only stunts you do are power sliding and jumping, of which you will earn points. By earning these points, you'll level up, earning more vehicles and liveries. There are no ways to earn any sort of currency, and these experience points are all you get to unlock stuff in the game. If you can combine these so-called stunts together, you'll build up a higher multiplier for your chain. It's easy to understand once you begin playing the game. There's also a rewind system in place, used when you royally screwed yourself up. There doesn't seem to be any limit on how many times you can use this, and there's no penalty for doing so feel free to utilize this feature as often as you need it to win these events. There's one big thing that drags the game down a notch or two: the bugs/glitches. They're all visual based, well, for the most part, but there's several parts of the game that indicate that a bit more polish could have been applied to the game. Before I get on to my main graphical gripe, I will say that in some races, the game will practically start the automatic countdown as 3, 2, 1, go. It's like they want to hurry up the count and get you racing ASAP or something, like they have somewhere to be. Also, when completing events, when you're brought back to the episode selection menu, the game sometimes forgets where it wants to be and puts the screen at a completely different area than the cursor itself. For example, you'll choose, say, episode 2, and then when you're done, the game will bring the menu back to the area where the second or third so-called boss was. It wasn't game-breaking or anything, but it sure got frustrating. There was also a time where I went off track and respawned in, and while flashing, used rewind to get myself to a more advantageous spot. But when I got put back on the track, my car was completely invisible. Only when I hit start to pause the game to note this did the car reappear. Again, only happened once and wasn't game-breaking, but I did want to mention it. Another oddity is that the developers must have forgotten to translate one of the episodes. Here, take a look yourself. Again, a bit strange and something they should have been able to catch. But finally, the main gripe I have with the visuals. The fact that there is some major pop-in. The game looks okay at best, with myself sometimes wondering if this was originally intended to be a PS3 game. I mean, when it's raining, the game looks fantastic, so there is that. But on a lot of the maps, I've seen the draw distance for the grass and weeds be practically non-existent. It's one of those things that if you're driving in first-person view, you're going to notice it fairly quickly. I thought this kind of stuff died out in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion era. I mean, this is the freaking PS4 and it can't draw grass more than a few yards ahead? Ugh. There's also some major texture issues to be found. Trees occasionally look out of focus and don't get graphically detailed until you're practically passing them. Distant mountains don't show the trees on them until you get closer, although that might be relevant to the pop-in I just mentioned. Also, the freaking sky glitched out on me a few times. It's distracting, and again, a bit of QA should have caught this stuff. It wasn't a once-and-done kind of thing. Another issue I had was some of the track designs. Most were fairly decent, but there were a few races where it looks like there may have been a shortcut to be traveled, and then when I, for example, hit the ramp made out of eroded rock, the game put me back on the main track to signify that I went out of bounds. Seriously? The track U-turned around, so I figured I could ramp off to hit the bottom level, but instead the game said, nope, illegal move, head back and start again. For a game that tries to be an arcade racer with minimal realism, this kind of thing feels inexcusable. How about the music? All racing games nowadays seem to have a lackluster licensed music, and although I don't think Gravel falls into that category, it's still not great. It isn't anything that will be a part of mainstream albums, but the limited selection of audio tracks that are present won't assault your ears. It's all rock riffs that try to get the adrenaline going, and although it does the job, I typically loaded up my Pandora station after a few hours of playing. I even tried the game online, which is unusual, but there was a trophy to complete 10 races, so I figured it was worth checking out. Plus, racing games are one of the few games I like playing online, as I feel I do pretty well. Well, it was fun, but the presence is minimal. I went up against the same 2 people, but thankfully Gravel adds in AI drivers if the room isn't full. I think I won 7 of the 10 events, but I should mention that a few of those events were special modes not found in the single-player game, like Capture the Flag and King of the Hill. Both of these are played a bit unusually, as King of the Hill has you grab a flag as you earn points the longer you can hold onto it, and Capture the Flag doesn't give you teams, but instead pits everyone against each other as you nab a flag and return it to a predetermined spot. Sure, they were fun, but they feel a bit out of place in a game like this. Maybe it's because the courses were just large, open areas. A bit more design probably would have made them feel a bit more fun, but as it stands, these special modes felt like a quick afterthought after the game was 90% completed in development. So is Gravel worth the money I paid for it? Sure, it's worth $10, maybe 20 at absolute most. It's not the most polished racing game, but I still had a fair bit of enjoyment out of the 10 or 12 hours or so I put into the game. I felt like if the bugs were squashed, the game would have been a bit better, but as it stands, Gravel is just a simple, poor man's dirt that doesn't do anything to get people to crane their heads to look its way. Should there be a Gravel 2, I hope they put a fine layer of polish on the game, because it could be a fun improvement if done right. Final score? 4 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.